The observation deck of the Stellar Harmony hummed with the usual chatter of a dozen different species. Captain Lyra Thane stood near the viewport, her hands clasped behind her back, watching the swirling nebula paint the darkness with streaks of violet and gold. She appeared unremarkable among the crew, average height, lean build, with that peculiar stillness humans often carried. "Captain Thane," chirped Ensign Velix, a Corthian with iridescent scales that shifted between blue and green. "The cargo manifest for Depot 7 is ready for your approval." "Thank you, Velix." "I'll review it shortly," Lyra replied, her voice calm and measured. Nearby, young Ravik watched with wide, golden eyes. The Ashkari cub, barely into his second cycle, had joined the ship only weeks ago as part of the cultural exchange program. His guardian, Commander Thress, had warned him about humans. Strange creatures from a death world, they said, but civilized enough now. Integrated into the Galactic Union for 3 generations, Ravik didn't understand what made them special. Captain Thane seemed ordinary. The alarm shattered the peace without warning. Red lights bathed the corridors as the ship lurched violently to starboard. Ravik tumbled across the deck, his claws scrambling for purchase. Around him, crew members activated emergency protocols, their movements practiced but tinged with panic. "Pirates," someone shouted. "Boarding party breaching Section C." Thress's fur bristled with alarm. "All non-combat personnel to the safe zones." "Ravik with me now." But before they could move, the observation deck's doors exploded inward. 3 figures stormed through, Krellian raiders, their chitinous armor gleaming, plasma rifles raised. The lead raider, massive and scarred, clicked his mandibles in what passed for a laugh. "Stay down, prey things. Resist and die," the crew froze. Felix dropped to the floor immediately. Thress pulled Ravik close, both trembling. Combat wasn't in their nature. Their species had evolved on peaceful worlds where predation was a distant evolutionary memory. Captain Thane didn't move. "I said down." The raider roared, swinging his rifle toward her. Lyra's head tilted slightly, and something changed in her posture. The relaxed stance melted away, replaced by something else, something coiled. Her eyes, which had seemed soft brown moments before, now fixed on the raider with an intensity that made Ravik's instincts scream. "No," she said simply. The word hung in the air like a blade. The raider hesitated, just for a heartbeat. It was enough. Lyra moved. One moment she stood 5 meters away. The next she was inside the raider's guard, her hand striking his weapon arm with surgical precision. The plasma rifle clattered away. Before he could react, she'd pivoted, using his momentum against him, and drove her elbow into the joint where his head met his thorax. The crack echoed through the deck. The raider collapsed. The other 2 raiders opened fire, but Lyra was already moving, not away from the danger, but through it. She rolled beneath the plasma bolts with fluid grace, coming up beside a support column. Her hand found a maintenance tool, just a heavy wrench, and she hurled it with terrifying accuracy. It struck the second raider's faceplate, spiderwebbing the reinforced material. Ravik watched, his mouth hanging open. This wasn't how prey moved. This was something else entirely. The third raider, showing more sense than his companions, activated his communicator. "Section C, we need—" Lyra covered the distance in 3 long strides. She caught his arm mid-sentence, twisted, and brought him down hard. The deck plates rang with the impact. Before he could rise, her knee was on his back, and she'd secured his limbs with his own restraint cables. 15 seconds. 3 trained raiders neutralized. Captain Thane stood, breathing steadily, not even winded. The wrench in her hand dropped with a clang. She tapped her communicator. "Security observation deck secured. 3 hostiles down. Send a team to process them." Her voice was the same calm tone she'd used to discuss cargo manifests. The safe zone buzzed with whispered conversations after the pirates had been repelled. Ravik sat beside Thress, but his eyes never left Captain Thane, who was giving a report to the ship's security chief as if nothing extraordinary had happened. "Commander Thress," Ravik whispered, his voice small. "Is this really human?" Thress's ears flattened against her skull. She was silent for a long moment, choosing her words carefully. "Yes, cub. That is human, but I thought humans were prey. Like us. That's what everyone says. They evolved, became civilized, joined the Union. We were wrong to think of them as prey, Ravik." Thress's voice carried a weight the cub had never heard before. "Do you know what Earth is? A planet?" "A crucible." Thress gestured toward Lyra with her muzzle. Humans evolved surrounded by predators. They were hunted by creatures with fangs and claws, with venom and crushing jaws. They had no natural weapons, no armor, no speed. So do you know what they did? Ravik shook his head. They became the apex predator anyway. They didn't just survive, they conquered. Every instinct, every reflex, every thought process evolved for one purpose: to hunt, to outlast, to win. They ran their prey to exhaustion over days. They threw spears with deadly accuracy. They coordinated in packs with a sophistication that made them unstoppable. Then why do they seem so calm, so gentle? Because they chose to be, Thress said softly. That's what makes them terrifying, cub. They carry that predator inside them, leashed by will and civilization, but when they need it, she gestured at the observation deck, where maintenance crews were already repairing the damage. You saw. Ravik looked at Captain Thane again. She was smiling now, reassuring a shaken Velix, her hand on the Korthian's shoulder in a gesture of comfort. The predator was gone, hidden beneath the surface once more. The galaxy thought we were uplifting primitives when we welcomed humans. Thress continued. We were fools. We invited predators into our midst. Predators who had learned to shake hands instead of throats. But never ever forget what they are beneath that courtesy. Captain Thane glanced their way and caught Ravik staring. She offered a small warm smile and a wave. The cub's fur stood on end. Is this really human? He whispered again. Yes, Thress said. And thank the stars they're on our side.